What's good, YouTube? Welcome back. Today it is a LazyDaze channel and we're back at it again with some more history reaction for you guys today, and we're back on some history marches content for you, and it's the Hannibal series. We're doing part 9 and part 10 in one video for you guys today, so I hope you enjoy. We're really looking forward to finding out what happens in these 2 episodes. Really enjoy history marches content. If you haven't already, head over to his page. A link will be in the description box down below. If you guys are enjoying our content, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we are just going to jump straight into this one.
Let's do this.
It's late summer, 217 BC. As the fires across the Apennines Valley died down after months of Carthaginian raiding, the locals returned to their burned towns and cities, struggling to bring their lives back to normal. Having outwitted Fabius, Hannibal escaped the valley. And now there was real fear in the Roman Senate as the Carthaginian general marched north towards Rome itself. And as a fan of our channel, you should definitely check out our friends over at Curiosity Stream. Escaping the Apennines Valley with his army and plunder intact again highlighted Hannibal's genius. And as the Carthaginian army now marched north along the Volturnus River, fears in Rome were reignited that the attack on the city was imminent. But despite the road to Rome being open for the second time, Hannibal marshaled his army back into the Apennine Mountains.
So he didn't go straight for Rome again.
His string of victories was not enough to secure alliances in Italy, and the Carthaginian general knew that without a firm foothold in the plains of Campania, he needed to establish winter quarters in a better strategic position.
Okay, that makes sense.
Heading back east to his old campaigning ground near the Adriatic coast was a prudent decision. Encumbered with plunder and herds of cattle, the Carthaginians moved slowly, cutting a swathe of destruction along their line of march, ravaging farms and property, collecting provisions and prisoners as they moved, unopposed by Fabius.
That was a bit loud.
While this unchallenged destruction of Roman lands and the prior escape from the Apennines Valley were the 2 latest embarrassing incidents that caused outrage against Fabius in the Senate, it was in fact his strategy that preserved the Roman army from potential destruction. Thanks to Fabius, the Republic stayed in the fight, which arguably kept their Italian allies from joining Hannibal.
That makes sense, okay.
Yeah,
Yet,
I think
due to his cautious war plans, Fabius's popularity in Rome was crumbling, and his allies in the Senate found it impossible to rally political support around him. It also didn't help that, by now, news spread throughout Rome that Fabius's property and lands were spared during Carthaginian raiding of the Apennines Valley, which cast further doubts about him. The Roman general tried in vain to improve his reputation by selling parts of his property to ransom Roman prisoners from Hannibal, after hearing that the Senate would not fund their release.
Wow, he sold his own
But despite
property.
the unabating criticism against him and demands for a more aggressive
that
stance,
says a lot.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
He sold
He's
his
like,
own
for fuck's
property.
sake, like, can you not see what I'm trying to do? Your simple minds just cannot comprehend what I am attempting to do here. So I will sell my own shit off, save Rome, and not deal with your bullshit. That's how I like he's literally just got the letter and just gone, nah, do you know what? I can't be asked to deal with your bullshit. Sell the house, I'll deal with it myself. Do you know what I mean? It's like getting a letter from the missus saying no, and he's like, I'm gonna do it anyway.
I'm doing it.
On the phone, getting done in by some like corporate bankers, like, you want to invest that 30 grand? Oh, she'll kill me, you know, you want to do it. Go on then, mate. That's it. Next thing you know, you're divorced. Got no house and not a penny to your name.
stance, he kept to
Don't
the
get
Fabian
married.
strategy,
No.
refusing to be drawn into a battle not of his choosing, and continued to shadow Hannibal. His scorched earth policy had a very limited effect, as many citizens refused to burn their towns and crops. But it did manage to hamper the movement of the Carthaginian army.
Need a couple of arsonists like me and you. What, burn the town? You really? What are you doing with a lighter in your hand already? I don't know what you're talking about. Everyone else trying to pull it out.
Some Molotov and just be like, right, let's go.
Let's go.
Which did not have a secure supply chain and had to live off the land. Meanwhile, Hannibal reached a place he deemed suitable for his winter quarters, the town of Geronium. It is unclear if Geronium was taken by force when Hannibal's terms were rejected, or if he took possession of the town after the inhabitants fled. Either way, Hannibal encamped just outside the town and had his troops repair the collapsed wall, as well as surround the town with a trench and a palisade, turning Geronium into a fortified granary for the Carthaginian army, where provisions and livestock were stored.
Okay.
Very
The sick
smart.
and wounded recovered in the camp, as thousands fanned out to forage the fertile plain to the west, while others pastured the cattle and horses on the hillsides to the east. With enough provisions to last until spring, in a strong defensive position, with several roads offering multiple mountain crossings into Apulia, Geronium was the perfect place to winter with an army. Meanwhile, in the foothills across the valley, the Romans arrived some 3 days later and began encamping. But the dissatisfaction in the Senate finally boiled over, forcing Fabius to depart for Rome. Officially, he journeyed to the capital to observe religious duties. However, the more likely reason for his absence from the front line was to confront his critics and explain his actions, in an effort to salvage any support he could for his campaign.
Okay, yeah.
I hope he does.
While the
Yeah.
political discussion raged on, back in the
I see
Roman
why he was
camp
doing
near
what he was doing,
Geronium, Minucius assumed a more aggressive stance. As second in command, he was left in charge of the army with orders to follow the Fabian strategy.
He's not going to do it.
But,
No.
eager to put pressure on Hannibal, he set up camp in the plain, from where he sent out parties of cavalry and velites to hunt down the Carthaginian foragers. Although most of the foragers escaped unharmed, Hannibal moved quickly to protect his foraging grounds by sending 2,000 Libyans to occupy the ridge overlooking the Roman camp. And just to the south, he established a temporary camp where he stationed 2/3 of his army.
Jesus.
Yeah,
Eager
Jesus.
to square up against the enemy, Minucius sent the heavy infantry towards the Carthaginian camp, while his light infantry and cavalry went for the ridge. This seemingly created a problem for Hannibal. Not only was he outnumbered, but he left his cavalry in the main camp. Whether he did this intentionally to appear weaker and trick the Romans into attacking, or because the horses needed resting, he now lacked the mobility needed for the clash against Minucius. With superior numbers and mobility on their side, the Romans took the ridge.
Okay.
Seeing his chance to put more pressure on the Carthaginians, Minucius moved his camp to the top of the captured hill. Expecting another attack, Hannibal restricted all foraging operations, keeping the troops in a state of readiness within the forward camp. But Minucius stayed put, and after a few days of inaction, the Carthaginian general finally broke the stalemate by sending troops to forage in ever-increasing numbers each day, until eventually some 4,000 men were committed. Dispersing so many troops in the surrounding countryside, while already being outnumbered, begs the question, did Hannibal so desperately need provisions for the winter and was forced to forage? Or did he want to weaken his position, perhaps even appear incompetent, to provoke Minucius into fighting and winning a few skirmishes with the aim of luring the Roman general into a trap once he became overconfident. Whatever the case, Minucius answered in force.
Okay.
He led the heavy infantry against the Carthaginian camp, while sending his cavalry and light infantry through the back gate to hunt down the foragers. The skirmish was a bloody affair, with the Romans getting the better of the engagement, killing many of Hannibal's foragers. Realizing it was time to regroup, Hannibal marched back to his main camp. Exaggerated accounts of this victory caused widespread rejoicing in Rome. Senators and citizens alike believed that they finally had a commander who can defeat Hannibal. Hailed for his success, a law was hastily passed that made Minucius co-dictator, which was effectively a return to having 2 senior magistrates in charge. But things did not go smoothly. Fabius urged caution, while Minucius wanted to take aggressive action. Due to persistent arguments over strategy, Fabius proposed that they command the army on alternate days, or split the army into 2 independent commands. Minucius decided to take 4 legions and establish his own camp.
They won't last long.
And I guess we'll find out what happens in the next one. Let's jump straight into it. No, I'm with Fabius.
Yeah.
Just as the sun rose over the plain beneath Geronium, the guards woke up Minucius. Hannibal was just outside the camp. For the second time, Hannibal positioned himself on the ridge, from where he could observe all activities in the Roman camp. Minucius was not about to allow him to control the engagement. The Romans advanced confidently, having previously driven Hannibal back from the same ridge and forced him to retreat to his main
They're
camp.
going to go straight up the ridge.
Minucius was now determined
He's not
to
smart
finish
because
the job.
now Hannibal's regrouped.
He's
But
so
this
confident.
time, Hannibal was ready.
Of course he was ready.
Bring the
So remember
cavalry.
word
Where's your
twice.
cavalry?
Yeah.
As the Roman light infantry crashed into the Carthaginian line, it seemed like their push will again drive back the enemy. But just as his men began giving ground, Hannibal reinforced the line with troops hiding just beyond the ridge. Minucius responded by sending the Roman and allied cavalry up the hill. From his vantage point, it seemed that the Carthaginians have just about enough men to hold off his light infantry, and he was determined to break the stalemate. But as the Roman cavalry closed in, Hannibal called upon his Numidian and Spanish riders, who poured over the ridge.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
What seemed until now like another skirmish turned into a proper battle. Outnumbered, the Roman line quickly lost ground and was pushed back down the hill. With his cavalry fully engaged, Minucius was now unable to scout the battlefield for potential ambushes. Nevertheless, he ordered his legions forward, fearing that his troops in the front will get overrun. However, what the Roman general didn't realize is that he was sending his men straight
Oh, I
into
love
a
his
trap.
nighttime shit, man. Oh my god. He's such a
During the
sneaky,
previous
devious
night,
man.
Hannibal led 5,000 Libyans and up to 1,000 cavalry, dispersing his men in groups of 200 to 300, ordering them to conceal themselves in the ravines, hollows, stream beds and tree lines to the north and south of the ridge.
King. You
The skill
absolute
and
king.
discipline of Hannibal's troops was evident in the flawless execution of this
Flawless.
potentially dangerous operation.
Romans.
Oh, mate.
Oh, you sexy man.
And now, as Minucius's
gotta
heavy
hold up,
infantry
he's like one of the
advanced up
best
the hill,
ambushing generals.
they collided
Oh,
with the
straight up,
overwhelmed
mate.
Roman
He's
cavalry
there.
and light infantry,
He's insane.
losing their cohesion. At that moment, Hannibal signaled his concealed troops to attack. From the mountain slopes across the river to the north and the ravines to the south, Libyan infantry and cavalry leapt forward. Some 3 kilometers away, Fabius could see that another disaster was looming. Left with no choice but to help the embattled troops, he ordered his men forward. Back in the valley, thousands of Roman troops were being mauled in yet another perfectly executed ambush. The sequence and timing of events over the past 24 hours, all planned and orchestrated by Hannibal, so as to lure Minucius into sending his cavalry early on in the battle,
He's giving me
thereby
a 7.
depriving him of the ability to scout the vast
Hannibal
battlefield,
is something else,
Which
which
mate.
prevented
Oh,
him
mate.
from discovering the hidden Carthaginian troops, ultimately resulting in his entire army being ambushed.
Oh,
By now, many Romans gave up and fled, fearing another full encirclement.
yeah, I would.
Seeing Fabius marching down towards the valley, Hannibal reportedly said, "That cloud on the mountains has broken into a storm at last." Finishing off those who weren't able to escape, Hannibal ordered his troops not to pursue, turning
Smart.
his army back towards the main
Yes,
camp.
yes.
He did not want a battle of attrition against a
Oh, yeah.
numerically superior.
Right, so total strength for Hannibal is 25,000 in the main camp.
And he used 20,000 versus that general he just defeated. The
He's-
losses are unknown,
but it's
it was
looking at
probably
probably
around about
2,000.
2,000. The general who's just been defeated, his total strength was 20,000 Roman legions, allied legions, veterans,
each.
and so 2 Roman legions, 2 allied legions, light infantry, Roman allied cavalry. And then his losses were around about 6,000 dead or captured. And then we got Fabius, who's still left alive. His total strength is 20,000, 2 Roman legions, 2 allied legions, and then light infantry and cavalry. So he's getting an additional, hopefully, 14,000.
Yeah.
So he's going to have 34. So,
I mean,
and Hannibal had 50,000, lost 2,000.
having 6,000 dead or captured alone.
Yeah, man. He was
His
absolutely-
ambushes are just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Insane. They're so well executed. That's why he's getting away with it.
Yeah.
The-
Yeah.
Everyone is so
And he knows
disciplined.
Fabius is a problem. He knows Fabius
Yeah,
is a
he
problem
knows.
because he's like, oh, like, I finally riled him up. But instantly, when he's riled him up, he's like, but I don't have a way to deal
Yeah.
with him. So let's chill here.
Yeah.
Let's chill.
Enemy,
You know?
half of which were rested troops, while his own troops grew tired after hours of fighting.
going through.
Yeah. man.
Having defeated the Romans yet again, Hannibal began settling in for the winter at Geronium.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Meanwhile, the humiliated Minucius returned supreme command to Fabius as a show of respect. Fabius, for his part, reinstated Minucius
Oh,
as his
dear.
second in command,
Okay, he did
treating
put him
him
back
with
into there.
utmost consideration.
Okay.
You messed up, but it's okay.
Yeah, he was.
As the
he's
year
still
drew
good.
to a close, the Roman army stayed at a respectful distance from the Carthaginians,
Again.
though sporadic skirmishes between scouting parties and foragers continued throughout the winter.
So the idea, just keep attacking those foraging parties.
Meanwhile,
yeah.
in
Make it
Spain,
difficult for him
the
to get
Roman
food.
strategy of putting more pressure on Carthage continued, as the Scipio brothers pushed
Okay.
south of the Ebro for the first time, successfully persuading a handful of Iberian tribes
Been a while
to
since we've
join the
talked to these
Roman
boys.
cause. This caused grave concern for the Carthaginian authorities, who sought to restore their popularity with the tribes by organizing the return of the hostage children belonging to the tribal nobility, until now held at Saguntum to keep the Iberians loyal. The Punic commander of the city entrusted an influential Iberian noble, Abelox, with returning the hostage children to their parents. However, in a stroke of luck for the Romans, Abelox instead brought the children to them as gifts and was handsomely rewarded.
You jammy
The
bar.
subsequently took it upon themselves to return the children to several tribal leaders, taking credit for their rescue. This resulted in massive support for the Roman cause from the Iberian tribes between Saguntum
Oh,
and
these
the
two
Ebro.
geezers, man.
Could you imagine?
These two
Could you imagine?
geezers.
But could you imagine being the person who authorised it, going, yeah, we'll give them back so we can gain the trust, and then 2 weeks later getting a letter going, they got stolen. Fuck's sake, now they're supporting. Where's the poison? Where's the poison? Cause
Get it, my dagger.
Yeah, I might as well die right now. There's no way you're surviving that. No way.
I
Back
can't
in
believe you've
Italy,
done that, though.
Fabius's 6-month term expired, and the Senate did not renew his dictatorial powers, giving
Okay.
temporary command to consuls Servilus Geminus and Marcus Attilis Regulus until the following elections resumed
names
in
are
just a
something
few
else.
months' time. And now, as the year 216 BC rolled around, a Roman army of unprecedented size was being raised, as the Senate prepared to mount a major effort to engage and destroy Hannibal once and for all. Credit
They are
goes to our
after your
awesome
bum.
patrons who make videos like this one possible. Consider joining them to support.
Quintus Fabius Maximus was greatly revered by later generations as the man who saved Rome by avoiding battle, giving the Republic a breathing space to recover from the defeat at Tribia and Transmene, and rebuilding its strength. 100%, I
That's
see
it,
that.
yeah.
He was. All of these other Roman people
They were going for a
indulged. We need to take him out. We're a superior
yeah.
force, but they weren't on the battlefield with him, and they weren't seeing what he was
Yeah.
doing and the tactics that he has.
Yeah,
And had
the tactics he
to
has.
do the skills and
Yeah.
do what he's doing. What are you going to do? What are they going to do
And also
if they
for-
went
for-
out there and be like, "Oh, well, we can easily take him out," and then halfway
Yeah.
through the night they're like, "Oh shit."
Yeah. And
Like-
the thing with it is Hannibal is on Roman turf.
Yeah.
There is not many ways he can get in additional forces. So if you're just taking out if you're taking out 50 to 100 people foraging every day, right, over time, that's going to affect his numbers. Do you know what I mean? And if you're then also on home turf, and every day that goes past, new people are turning 18, and new people can join the Roman legions, you are just going to get more and more people. So why not just slowly take him out, build up your forces until it is a ridiculous 5-to-1 situation,
Yeah,
and you can surround him, and you're like, yeah,
but
there's
he's
no way.
but
for you
he's
to
got
leave.
too much. He's too tactically in there.
So that's what I'm saying. Like at the moment they're leaving it. Like that's what you need to do, because at
But
some point
it's
he's
just a
gonna.
normal. It
he's
just
not
seems to
gonna
be a
able to.
tactic of just burning the lands as you go to provoke the people where you are.
Yeah, but that's a scorched.
It's scorched earth tactic. Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah.
But you know when that happens, you know what the plan is and what they want you to do.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah, but even then, like Fabius asked the Roman people to torch the land, and they wouldn't do it because scorched land can be used in two ways.
Yeah.
It can either be used by the aggressor to affect the economy,
Yeah.
so on and so
Or
forth,
it can be used by-
as a defensive people by the people of the home state to stop them from getting the food to keep them sustained. So it was both situations. When Hannibal used it, it was used correctly. When Fabius tried to use it, the people didn't want to go through with it. Hence why it wasn't used correctly, because they didn't go through with what he wanted. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I
man.
definitely think Hannibal is one of the best ambushes. Plenty more to come from this story, and I imagine there's plenty more content out there. So if you guys have any more suggestions, drop it in the comments box down below. If you're enjoying our content, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, but we will catch you in the next video.
see you in a bit.